So Jira filters tend to be one of the more misunderstood tools inside of Jira in terms of the way that they're typically put together and used. So I'm going to share a few of the tips and tricks that I like to use whenever using filters on a daily basis to make them way more effective. So filters kind of have two sections to them. You have your putting together the search, and then you're referencing a already created search that you've already preset and shared with users, or reused on a dashboard, or within a board view in a Jira project. Those are going to be all of your saved views, which are very useful and I use on a handful of occasions throughout the week, mostly within dashboards. But I tend to use these search work items a lot more. And whenever I jump in here, I tend to start clearing out the last 30 days because that's there by default, and you might miss a lot of stuff if you don't do that. And then I start to put my search together. So I'd start to narrow down my projects, selecting specific projects, adding in assignees, types, this is work types, statuses, and then you have this more filters button. And this allows you to filter on any field within a Jira work item. So if you're looking at a custom field within your own work item, and it might say, account, affected company, like whatever it is, you can literally filter down on every single field within Jira. So you could find that within the more filters, specify what you're looking for, and it will narrow down that search for you. Once you have your search narrowed down, I typically use this in a few different ways. The biggest reason I probably use this for is bulk changing. So I would typically go through, define a list. This one has quite a bit. You could only bulk change 1,000 at a time, so keep that in mind. So there's 6,000, so I'd go to the top right, I'd click on bulk change work items, and then that'll go through a section that walks you through actually bulk changing these things rather than doing them once at a time. So super useful feature. You do have to have specific permissions across multiple projects to do that, or your own project. But if you want to change more than one or maybe more than a few different work items at the same time, bulk change is going to be incredible. Exporting is kind of the next biggest reasons I use these filters for. So if you wanted to export from a particular project, a list of work items, maybe things you're working on, really anything where all the tickets inside of Jira, you could do that by hitting the export tab. And then I usually use CSV all fields. My default is going to show you anything that's listed here. So you could add your columns to limit what you're seeing. Otherwise, the files tend to be really big and large. So that's how I use the filters primarily, or just in general, if I'm trying to look for stuff, I sometimes go in here, narrow down my results. I will use the search function quite a bit as well. The searches through not only the summary, but the actual contents on the work item. So if I pull one of these up and maybe show you a quick example, I'll actually just drop a description in here. Test description. So I'll add that in. And now if I search for, this is EO18, I'll search for test description. So it's not only going to pull up things with that summary, but it's going to pull up EO18. If I go in here, that's in the description, and I could actually search through it. So if you're searching for something that you typed or that you've seen before, this is going to be one of the best ways to do so while also limiting all of your projects. JQL is also fantastic to use for a lot more advanced functionality, and it's gotten a lot easier to use recently. But what I like to do is define a search result that I already know first. So like different projects, different work types, statuses, and then I switch to JQL when I need to be more granular. That way it kind of pre-builds for me and I don't have to type it out. Another trick to using JQL is to use ChatGPT. It's pretty phenomenal at writing it these days. So definitely leverage it for that. Once you have your work items built or your filters built and shared, one of the things that I tend to struggle with anyway, and that I've seen a lot of other teams struggle with, is recovering permissions or recovering these filters from other individuals. And the way that you do this is by going to your settings on the top right, go to your system, and then you go to there's a section on the bottom left for filters, shared item filters. You could also do this with dashboards. But you could go through and find the filter that belongs to someone else. So here's Alana Grant's filter. Click on the three dots, change owner, and you can define the new owner to yourself and actually be able to modify, change it, and share it with other users. So if you ever get locked out, that's the way to do it. So hopefully that helped. That was a really quick overview on how I like to use filters and how they kind of fit into my daily workflow. We will be covering dashboards very soon, so stay tuned for that. Real quick, I've implemented Jira for over 200 companies. By far, the number one reason teams reach out to us is because they built what they thought was a great solution, only to realize that nobody actually ended up using it. And if that sounds familiar, that's exactly what we help you fix. We're currently taking on new projects 4 to 6 weeks out. And if you want help implementing Jira in a way that your team will actually use, hit the first link in the description below.